everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is MTG Ghoul Dude. Back to the Digging Up the Past series, but this one I'm really excited for. This is the block I've been waiting to do since I started it, because it's my favorite plane, Innistrad. This is by far the, in my opinion, the most flavorful set block that we've seen zombies just in full force. So a little bit about Innistrad. Let's get into it. It was the 56th Magic expansion, was released on September 30th, 2011. It was a top-down design set, meaning that it was designed and developed with flavor in mind first, molding mechanics to fit the concept. The expansion symbol of the set is a depiction of two outward-facing, overlapping, stylized herons. The set featured graveyard and tribal mechanics, some that we know very well, with the 5 main tribes each being split over allied color pairs. Spirits in the white and blue, zombies in the blue and black, vampires black and red, werewolves red and green, and humans primarily in green and white. Each of these pairs having 2 colors being corely represented by their secondary colors. With zombies it would be black. There was also slight thematic differences between the tribes depending on the color, such as blue zombies being amalgamations of science in the vein of Frankenstein's monster, while black zombies are shambling corpses reanimated by magical spells. So without further ado, let's get into it. Armored Ska for 2 and a blue. It's a 1/4 zombie warrior. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. This was one of the ones where this is the set where we start seeing a lot of these type of effects, along with another one we'll see soon enough, where you mill or you do something with your graveyard to fill up your graveyard for more subsequent spells, zombies, later on. Like the Makeshift Mauler. For 3 and a blue, it's a 4/5 zombie horror, so it can fit in 2 different categories. And as an additional cost to cast Makeshift Mauler, exile a creature card from your graveyard. So with Armored Ska, you put 4 in there. If you have a creature card, you can cast this 4/5 a little bit sooner than other people would be able to cast their 4/5s. Stitch Drake for 1 and 2 blue. It's a 3/4 zombie Drake with flying, and as an additional cost to cast Stitch Drake, exile a creature card from your graveyard. You can see where this one kind of gets a little aggravating, especially in other formats like Commander, where you want to actually try and keep your graveyard around for as long as you can. Ska Goliath for 5 and a blue. It's a zombie giant, 6/9. As an additional cost to cast Ska Goliath, exile 2 target creature cards from your graveyard, and it also has trample. Undead Alchemist. This is a very interesting card. For 3 and a blue, it's a 4/2 zombie. If a zombie you control would deal combat damage to a player, instead that player puts that many cards from the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Then its second ability says, and this one is nutty, whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from his or her library, exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So with the first ability, it doesn't matter how many alchemists you have. You could have 20, 30 alchemists, but it would not make your opponent mill more with the combat damage. But whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from their library, the triggered ability of each undead alchemist you control will trigger. The first such ability to resolve will exile that creature and create a zombie token. The rest won't exile the creature card in the graveyard, but they will each create a token. So say you have 5 alchemists on the board. Guess what? The first one triggers and you get 5 zombies, which is a great deal. Ska Brewinator for 1 and 2 blue. It's a 5/6 zombie horror. As an additional cost to cast Ska Brewinator, exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard. It also has flying, and it can be cast from your graveyard. Now we get into our black zombies with Ghoul Razor. For 1 and 2 black, you get a 2/2 zombie, and it just reanimates a random zombie from your graveyard to your hand. It is to your hand, but it's still pretty good, and I love the art and the flavor text along with it. It says, "Come, bring your brothers tonight, you feast on living flesh. Jadar, Ghoulcaller Nephalia." We'll see him in later sets. But I just love the art and how he's just, just digging them up as he goes. Rotting Fin Snake for 3 and a black. It's a 5/1 zombie snake. It's, it's a little iffy, but if you have some cost reducers and all that good stuff, then maybe you get 2 of these and it's pretty good. Walking Corpse for 1 and a black. It's a 2/2 zombie. It's just a vanilla 2/2 zombie for 2. It's pretty good. And the art in the back of this card is reminiscent of what we have in the background. Arbiter Ghoul for 3 and a black. It's a 3/2 zombie with First Strike, of all things. And whenever a creature dealt damage by Arbiter Ghoul this turn dies, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So if you have a 3/3 that you block with it, you gain 3 life. Could be pretty good in swinging against token decks. Diagraph Ghoul for a single black. It's a 2/2. It enters the battlefield tapped. And this art is just great. I love all the art, just about all the art from the Innistrad zombies. It's just so amazing. Unbreathing Horde for 2 and a black. It's a 0/0, but it enters the battlefield with a counter on it for each zombie you control and each zombie card in your graveyard. So if you just happen to have a horde on the battlefield and an undead horde in the graveyard, guess what? This is pretty huge. But if it would be dealt damage, prevent that damage and remove a counter from it. Just a single. It could be a 13/13 and you could swing and destroy an Embercool, but it wouldn't prevent the damage you deal. It just knocks a counter off. Just one. So it's a pretty good deal if you're looking for a more conservative zombie wall. Grim, Corpseborn for 3 and a blue and a black. It's a 5/5 zombie warrior. It's also legendary, so you can run this as a commander, which is wonderful because I have actually seen a couple Grim decks, and it is just atrocious what they do with this commander. It enters the battlefield tapped, but hold on. It doesn't untap during your untap step. That's fine, because it has the ability that says sacrifice another creature, untap it, and put a counter on it. So, you grow it yourself. Kind of thing I say about my hair. Kind of grew it myself. But whenever it also attacks, destroy target creature defending player controls, then put another counter on him. This is pretty good if you ask me. Kind of makes it a little bit more evasive and makes it to where it has pseudo vigilance if you have enough creatures. Then we get to our zombie affiliate cards. The first one we're going to look at is Cellar Door for 2 colorless. It's an artifact for 3, and tapping it, you can make target player put the bottom card of their library into their graveyard. And if it's a creature card, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Grimoire of the Dead. It just sounds like a zombie card. And the art is just so gruesome. Love it. For 4, it's a legendary artifact, and whenever you tap one, tap it, and discard a card. Seems like a lot, but it's worth it in the end. Put a study counter on it. Tap it and remove 3 study counters from it, and sacrifice it. Put all creature cards, not just yours, all creature cards in all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. And that's not even the best part. They all become black zombies in addition to their other types. So if your opponents just happen to have, I don't know, Eldrazi, elves, goblins, they're all now zombie Eldrazi, zombie goblins, zombie elves, zombie fish. Everything's a zombie, and everything's better when it's a zombie. Then we have the big boy, the granddaddy of all decks that makes everything better, goes around, comes around, Rooftop Storm. This card doesn't need any introduction. If you don't know what Rooftop Storm is, you've been living under a rock. Suffering, apparently. For 5 and a blue, it's an enchantment. You may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for zombie creature spells you cast. You got a Gravecrawler in the graveyard and you don't want to pay the black? You don't have to. It's 0. Got zombies in your hand, you don't have the mana to cast them? You don't have to. They're 0. This is just the epitome of watch me and find out for a zombie deck. And I just love the flavor text. It says, let those idiot priests tremble. A new era in unlife begins here and now. Oglor. I can't read. Raise the lightning vein. And that was Stitcher Giraffe. The art was impressively done by John Stanko. Never heard of this artist. I might have to look him up. Endless Ranks of the Dead. It's an enchantment for 2 and 2 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is half the number of zombies you control rounded down. It's a pretty crazy card when you already have like a horde on the battlefield and you just half it and put it on the battlefield. Yeah, it's pretty good. Rounded down. Rounded up would have been better, but rounded, anything half of what you already have to add on to what you have is pretty good. And then we come up to Army of the Damned for 5 and 3 black. Seems expensive, but it's worth it. Sorcery speed. Put 13 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's 13 tap 2/2s. What are you going to do with that? Well, there are some things you can do with tap creatures, especially in a zombie deck, at least for me. Then it also has a flashback cost of 7 and 3 black, so you're paying 8 the first time, 10 the next time, 18. It's not that hard to do that in a big mono black deck, or blue-black with just splash and blue for protection. But it's still pretty good. The flavor text and the art just correlates so good with this one. Sometimes death comes knocking. Sometimes it tears the walls down. Ghoul Caller's Chant. For a single black, it's sorcery. Choose one. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or return 2 target zombie cards from your graveyard to your hand. That's value. Mona the Unhallowed. For 2 and 2 black, it's a sorcery. Put 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, and it has a flashback cost of 5 and 2 black. So, I mean, you pay for the cost the first time, and then you kind of overpay. But if you really just need the tokens, it's pretty decent in a more casual deck, but decent nonetheless. And that's going to be all I got for you guys today. I really appreciate y'all stopping by the channel and just enjoying Innistrad with me. Like I said, this is my favorite set, favorite plane, and I just can't get enough of it. But I appreciate you guys, and if this is the kind of content you like and you want to see more, like and subscribe. Let me know what your favorite zombie set is, and I will see you guys in the graveyard.